Hello again, everyone. This is Jay, and welcome back to Learn Linux TV. In today's video, I felt it was time to correct a mistake when it comes to this channel, and that is the lack of SUSE content. SUSE is a distribution that is celebrated by quite a few people out there. It has a very strong following, and the people that use SUSE are very passionate about it. In fact, they even have some really cool YouTube videos for SUSE itself made by people at SUSE that are, well, awesome. There's even a video that tells you how to pronounce SUSE. In fact, I have seen at least 2 funny videos from SUSE themselves on how to pronounce it. So there's definitely no shortage of love, both from SUSE themselves and the community. And now with the news of CentOS recently, I think SUSE is becoming even more popular. So I figured it was time to dive back into SUSE and check it out. Now, version 15.3 is on its way, so I decided to check it out on this laptop, and that's exactly what I'm going to do in today's video. But before we get into that, I wanted to mention the sponsor for today's video, Linode. Linode has been doing cloud computing since 2003, which is actually before Amazon Web Services was even a thing. On Linode's platform, you can get your server up and running in minutes, and they include all of the popular distributions such as CentOS, Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora, and get this, also Arch Linux. And let's be honest, what could be better than a Linux cloud server provider that allows you to tell all of your friends, I run Arch? Linode has multiple server plans available to make any app scalable and flexible. You can use it to host a blog, set up a VPN server, a Minecraft server, or you could do what I did and set up a website for your YouTube channel, because the official website for LearnLinuxTV runs on Linode. And Linode offers 24/7 365 support regardless of plan size, so you can get live help from a real person when you need it. New users can get started right now with $100 in credit towards a new account, and I highly recommend you check them out because Linode is awesome. Thank you to Linode for your continued support of Learn Linux TV. I really appreciate it. Now we need to check out openSUSE 15.3. I just want to mention real quick, though, that 15.3 is not final, so I will not be giving you guys a final opinion. I'm going into this expecting there to be problems because, well, that's exactly how you treat a beta. You just expect there to be problems and just have the hope that those problems will be fixed when it reaches its final status, when the final release is available. So I'm going into this with the expectation that there probably will be bugs, but I'm really excited about this because I really want to get back into openSUSE and check it out. And not just because they have a chameleon as the logo. That's not really the reason here. Wait, is it? Okay, the chameleon is really, really awesome, let's admit. But no, honestly, I'm really excited to check out openSUSE. It's been a very long time since I've checked out this distribution. I don't even want to look to see how long it's been. That's how long it's been. So let's make this wrong right. Let's get this corrected and check out openSUSE 15.3, which I'm hoping will lead to more SUSE content on this channel. Let's get into it. So here I am with the Plasma desktop running on openSUSE 15.3. Now again, openSUSE 15.3 is a beta. It's not final yet, so I'm going to reserve final judgment. But I definitely wanted to check out the Plasma interface because it's long been considered the default desktop for the distribution. Although you could argue that's not so much the case nowadays, since it's generally just down to a checkbox as far as which desktop environment you get. But it is what it is. I decided to try out Plasma first. So you get the usual array of applications. For example, we have the Dolphin File Manager. And I'll open up the kickoff menu here. I think they're still calling it that. Plasma changes the names of some of their core technologies quite often. But anyway, we have Firefox as the default browser. And here it is opened up to the search.opensuse.org start page, which is fine. It gets the job done. Google is the default search provider that is set up in Firefox by default. We, of course, have system settings. This is how you configure your Plasma desktop. There's settings for all kinds of different things here. I'll make this bigger. And the thing is, you might notice an inconsistent font size here and icon size. You can see some of these tray icons are puny, and then the font here for the clock is quite large. Plasma has always had an issue with sizing things properly on 4K screens. I know they're working on that, but it is a little annoying. Anyway, we can see that there's a custom theme here. So if I go to Global Theme, we actually have an openSUSE theme, and I really like that they have customized this. They haven't done like a ton of customization or anything, but it is a decent change from the normal theme that comes with Plasma. Nothing against that theme. I just really like it when distributions put polish into the look and feel. But I could, of course, go back to the Breeze Dark theme, for example. So we have the Plasma icon right here instead of the chameleon icon, and I have to be honest, I need that chameleon icon to be there. So I'm going to click on openSUSE and set it back to that. Because if you have a theme installed that has a chameleon for the application launcher icon, then that's the theme you technically should be using. In all seriousness, as you would expect, we have the usual suspects when it comes to pre-installed software. So for example, we have LibreOffice. And no surprise there, it is an awesome Office suite. And you can already see exactly what I'm talking about because right now I have the zoom set to 100%. That's just the way it came. You can see how large the font size is for the clock. And the font size for the application tiles is a bit smaller here. And this page looks very small to me. So again, I've always had a bit of an issue when it comes to high DPI and Plasma. I did actually customize this a bit to make it even better. There are settings that you can tweak to customize this, but it is what it is. I found that the Plasma desktop in SUSE is solid, and although I'm having issues with high DPI, I know a lot of you out there, you probably don't have a high DPI display, or maybe you're on a desktop, in which case the issues aren't going to be as apparent, but it is a solid desktop for sure. And I also like the wallpaper that they've chosen for this as well. So it is pretty cool. I do like the default layout of openSUSE. And even though I'm having a few issues with sizing, for all I know, that could be fixed when 15.3 becomes final. Now, one of the things that a lot of people seem to enjoy about SUSE is Yast. And for those that don't already know, Yast stands for Yet Another Setup Tool, which is a fun acronym. But it's something that has been featured in SUSE for basically as long as I can remember. So here in my KDE-based installation, I could bring up Yast, simply search for it, there it is. I'll type in my super secret password, and here it is. Now what's really cool about Yast is that pretty much anything you can think of when it comes to system administration that you want to do on your server or workstation, it's more than likely the case that you'll have options for that here in Yast. As an example, here we have Windows Domain Membership, which should allow me to actually add this workstation to a Windows domain. Unfortunately, I don't actually have a Windows domain to add this to. Now the thing is, over the years, I've been recommending SUSE to a lot of people out there that are running in mixed environments, basically Linux and Windows environments where they have a Windows domain controller, because I've always known that SUSE has support for Windows domains built right into it. And so far, none of those people that I've recommended SUSE to have come back and let me know that they hate me, so I think it's working out pretty well. But again, even though I don't have a Windows domain to add this to, you can see here that it is a possibility. You could customize Samba shares, NTP, and so on. But what I want to do right now is actually go to Software Management. And specifically what my current problem is that as much as I love the Plasma desktop, it just doesn't seem to be working out too well on this X1 Extreme Gen 1 laptop with a 4K screen. And I really don't think the problem is anything to do with openSUSE, because I've had this problem on pretty much every distribution that features Plasma. It just doesn't seem to scale everything properly. I know that the Plasma developers are working on having adequate high DPI support, so no judgment. But what I want to do right now is actually install the Gnome desktop environment and see if the experience is even better. So what I could do is click on View, and then I can click on Patterns. And actually, right at the very top is exactly what I was looking for. I can install a basic Gnome environment or a full X11 or Wayland Gnome environment. So I'm going to check the box right here for the X11 version. That's actually what I want. And then I'm going to accept the changes. Let's continue. And that's really all there is to it. So you are already seeing the value of Yast. I didn't have to worry about what is the meta package named for Gnome. I didn't have to Google that or anything. I could have Googled the package name for this, and I would have been able to use the zipper command line utility to install that exact package, that meta package. But this was a lot faster because I simply clicked on Yast. I went to the software section. I found the collection for Gnome. I checked the box. I hit the button, and now it's installing. So what I'm going to do right now is fast forward this, and I will be right back as soon as it's done. All right, so it looks like the process has completed. Now, it did take quite a bit of time for it to install these packages, but I'm not going to blame openSUSE for that because I've actually been having a speed issue with the Wi-Fi card on this laptop. It's the case on Pop! OS, Ubuntu, and pretty much every other distribution as well. But it is what it is. It successfully installed the packages that are required for Gnome. So I'm going to click on Finish. And what I'll do is reboot. And I'll see how Gnome is on this particular machine. Now that I've logged into Gnome, I could tell you already that the font size appears to be handled perfectly here. And Gnome has always seemed to handle high DPI better than Plasma, so I'm not very surprised to see that. So let's go ahead and check out Gnome. Now the first thing I notice here is that they have the same default wallpaper here for Gnome as they do in Plasma, which is great because it's pretty cool. I'm connected to Wi-Fi. I should be ready to go. Let's take a look around. And I can see here that it appears that I'm using the Plasma desktop theme in Gnome. And I'm not really sure if the openSUSE developers are using the Plasma themes in Gnome, or if it's just because I installed Plasma before Gnome and the theme settings carried over, which does happen from time to time. So I'm not going to speak about the themes here. It is what it is. I'm just happy that the sizing appears to be normal here. So I saw a message here when I logged in that some updates were available. I'm curious what that looks like, so I'll click on it. I'll give it some time to refresh. And it's actually telling me that all packages are up to date. So I'm not really sure why it told me that there are updates available if there really weren't any updates available. So that was interesting. The message was here, I promise. And I'm going to look back at the footage and make sure I'm not losing my mind. But again, this is a beta, so things like that are par for the course. So let's take a look at some of the apps here that we have installed by default, either as part of the Gnome installation or the Plasma installation that I created earlier. So we have GIMP, which is pretty cool for editing photos, a document scanner. That's definitely something I'm glad to see here. And some of these K apps, these KDE apps, of course, are going to be here because I did install the Plasma desktop first. Skipping over all of those, I've already talked about LibreOffice. I installed the NVIDIA driver off camera, and that is something I do want to talk about for a bit because it seems to be working just fine for me. Now, one downside I will mention about openSUSE, at least this 15.3 version, is that it wasn't as easy to get the proprietary NVIDIA driver installed as it is in Ubuntu as well as Pop! OS. So that is actually a downside. But to be fair, after you install the repository and then the package, you really shouldn't have to do this again. It's just a one-time thing. I would like to see them make this easier for newcomers though. On my end, I just Googled how to install the NVIDIA driver on openSUSE. The instructions came right up and I followed them. I was good to go. With Ubuntu and Pop! OS, they make it even easier because all you have to do is click on additional drivers and then click on the section that shows where the NVIDIA driver is, and then you're good to go. So that being said, of course, I understand that the NVIDIA driver is proprietary and it's not always that easy for a distribution provider to include it because there could be some licensing concerns there. But then again, if someone does have proprietary hardware on their computer, chances are, more than likely, they want that to work to its fullest capacity, and it is what it is. So I'll close that and we can go ahead and go back to the activities overview and see what else we have. And another thing that I'm curious about is Gnome software. And it's saying that it's unable to contact extensions.gnome.org. And for some reason it doesn't really appear to be working, and I'm not really sure why. Again, it's a beta, so things like this are expected. But as I understand it, this is where I'll be able to install software. But of course, we have the tried and true Yast. And let's be honest, if you are an openSUSE user, then Yast is probably all you need. Maybe Gnome software is something that you'll never touch because as I understand it, Yast is a very celebrated feature of openSUSE and SUSE in general. And if you want to install applications, you could definitely do so through this tool. In fact, I'll click on Software Management. And as you can see, this is where we can install applications. So I'm just going to search for something random. So I'll just search for Westnoth, one of my favorite games. Let's see if it's available. And would you look at that? It is available. That is so cool. So I'll accept that. Let's go ahead and install all those dependencies because Westnoth is an awesome game. Definitely love it. Haven't thought about Westnoth in quite some time, but you know what? It's a fun game and I want to see if it's changed at all. But it's just an example of something to install. The first thing that came to mind for some reason. So that's what I'm installing. So I'll let this finish and then I'll be right back. And there we go. I'll click Finish. And there it is. And here's Westnoth. Now, how cool is that? Let's go ahead and start a campaign. I'll click Play. Just see what's changed since the last time I've played this, and not a whole lot. It looks about the same, but then again, it's a classic Linux game. Definitely something that I recommend you check out. And oddly enough, it was the first application that I thought to install just to test application installs in the Gnome version in general. So I guess I must have been in the mood to play some games. It is near the end of the day, so I guess there's that. But anyway, I'll close out of this for now. Now already my opinion of the Gnome version of openSUSE 15.3 is that it's very performant. I don't see any delays when it comes to performance at all. It's running just fine. So I think if I was to go with the openSUSE distribution one day, then the Gnome edition would probably be my go-to, at least until Plasma gets their high DPI issues sorted out. But that's not the blame of openSUSE at all. They don't develop the Plasma desktop, although I could assume that they probably contribute upstream to it, just like any other capable Linux open source company would do. But I actually am enjoying this so far. I think openSUSE 15.3 might be a very solid release. I can't wait until the final release so I could find out. So there you go. That was my quick look at openSUSE version 15.3. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to reserve final judgment. I'm not going to give you guys my overall opinion in general because version 15.3 is beta. That means work in progress. But what it also means is that I'll be checking out the final version as soon as it's out. Now again, I'm going to reserve my final judgment for when this version actually comes out, but already I'm cautiously optimistic because I really do like it so far. And yeah, there's some rough edges here and there, as would be expected. But again, when the final version comes out, I will let you guys know exactly what I think about this distribution. But I know a lot of you guys out there are very passionate about SUSE, and I can see why. So I'm very excited to check out the final release. But you know what? There's actually another version of SUSE that I haven't checked out yet, and that's Tumbleweed. I think it's time. So what I'm going to do right now is wipe this laptop again. I'm going to install Tumbleweed on it. I'm going to check that out. And I'm going to come back with another SUSE video. This time it'll be about the Tumbleweed edition. That'll be my next video right after this one. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, in the meantime, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you again very soon.